to present the results of the 2024 MSME Pulse Survey. This is an initiative that we've been doing for the last 3 years, and it's getting really exciting because we've got year-on-year comparable data now, and this survey really covers perceptions faced by SME business or MSME business owners across 4 countries: Ethiopia, South Africa, Kenya, and Nigeria. And we do this in partnership with Africa 118. Thank you, Zana, for your databases and extending our surveys out to them. And then a little bit about GeoPoll is we are a global research consultancy, and we started and pioneered mobile-based data collection in emerging markets and on the continent. And we've really just mushroomed out into servicing some of the biggest humanitarian aid organizations in the world. Just the next couple of slides are really going to be a little bit of a buzzkill, and if I'm too much of a buzzkill, please stick me in the arse end of the conference next year. Happy to do that. But it's really looking at what the perception about the business environment is for MSMEs across these 4 countries. So in terms of employment, according to the African Development Bank, MSMEs in the sector employs 80% of the continent. So when we're looking at numbers like 40% say that they've actually laid off staff in the last 2 years, this impact is massive. Right? And again, 40% are unlikely to be hiring in the next quarter as well. So it seems like the appetite for new staff coming into the businesses is quite low. So next is really what the business environment is. And this graph it tells a stark tale of from better to worse, right? Businesses were coming out of a COVID recovery, optimism was high, people were excited, and then all of a sudden, certain factors, which I'll get to in a moment, really kind of flipped this, and we regressed and lapsed back into a sentiment or a negative sentiment. What is the drivers of this? So mainly it's really around inflation, forex rates, and political uncertainty. So Ethiopia and South Africa ranked the highest in terms of political uncertainty. Kenya really was impacted the most on rising prices and inflation, and then Nigeria was mostly impacted by forex rates. If anyone has done business in Nigeria over the past few years, I'm sure we can anecdotally share stories about that and the impact that it's had. What is the coping mechanisms of this? Well, really it starts off with people dipping into their personal savings. It then moves to a slowdown of expansion efforts and growth efforts within the business. And lastly, it's just overall reduced business activities. Okay, onto the positive stuff. Internet and technology usage. So I see a lot of digital fundies in the room, and you'll be happy to know that the investment in online advertising has remained consistent. All real investments in online and digital technologies have remained consistent. But we're really seeing a growth in internal management processes and products. So this, I can assume, would be due to create certain efficiencies within the business caused by the problems of inflation and forex rates and so on and so forth. So what we would see is more tools to create productivity and create efficiencies within the business is on the rise, and that's really a stark difference from 2023. But the actual reliance on technology remains high, and it will continue to do so. Looking at the mobile apps usage and the tech investment, it's really 60% of businesses are now using mobile apps, which is really a big, what we term in research as a significant increase from 46% in 2023, and all the businesses are going to continue investing in pretty much the stock standard websites, e-commerce, financial tools. However, we see a massive growth and a jump in artificial intelligence. Now that really brings me over to the next slide, which it's funny because if you look at this, really the drivers of that investment into AI is motivated by fear and uncertainty. All right, you know, the majority or 40% of the entire sample says we don't know how this is going to impact our business over the next 5 years, followed by very negative and somewhat negative sentiment as the second, all the way down to the minuscule amount of the sample that actually said, you know what, this is actually going to be very positive for our industry. And it's something that I was chatting to both Charles and Lyndon yesterday as to what the possible reasons are for this. And really it is, I would say, fear of being redundant, fear of being uncompetitive. So yes, fear and uncertainty are very successful marketing drivers in the pharmaceutical space, but I don't think it's a very sustainable and long-term approach to ensure that this is going to resume or become normal adoption. So yeah, quite a very stark stat over there. Moving on to the SaaS, or software as a service, it is on the rise in terms of the African context. We're seeing a 13% higher adoption in SaaS products in 2024 from prior year. And really the highest has been driven by South Africa. And you know, certain technologies include web design, e-commerce, and accounting are the most popular areas of SaaS products. So the marketing channels, social media remains dominant, and this really could be due to just the ease of access and ease of adoptability, but also it is cost effective. Word of mouth, search engines, and direct marketing all have a close second and third. In terms of marketing activities and budgets, where is this budget being allocated? We have seen some shifts in this area. So in terms of in terms of who is actually marketing these businesses, we've seen a real takeaway of individual consultants over onto own team members. So there's been a certain effort of upskilling team members within a business, as well as a good shift or a big shift over to digital agencies. Now, I can't really explain this, but we can think about it logically. Either you've got that team of individual consultants and freelancers either being absorbed within the businesses they've been servicing. Alternatively, they could also be just reclassified as actual agencies, or maybe grown as small to medium businesses themselves. So this is quite positive. And in terms of the spend, we're looking across the board at Ethiopia, Kenya, and Nigeria, all saying that they are going to heavily increase their actual online spend over the next 12 months. The outlier here being South Africa, which is going to keep it the same. Financing, looking at how users are accessing funds or financing their business. The first is only funders' own funds, so they're using their own internal funds, friends and family. Moving on to banks, which I found very surprising due to the exclusive nature of actual small to medium businesses getting loans from banks. I'm not a financial guru, so I can't really explain that, but that's had a massive increase up to 29% since 2023, which was only 11%. So it seems a lot more loans are being granted, given, which again does seem a little bit strange considering we are in an era of high inflation rates. Expansion opportunity, let me get this acronym right, but in terms of efforts by organizations such as the African Continental Free Trade Area, it aims to enhance the movement of goods and services across the African continent without restrictions. We tested what the appetite is for these MSMEs to expand to other areas on the continent. So we have across the board all the countries, Ethiopia, Kenya, and Nigeria, very keen and willing and able to actually expand to other territories in the continent, and a lot of them have also been starting to pursue those opportunities to do that expansion. South Africa, again, is the anomaly here that is focusing on trade and business within its own borders. A little bit of a side note, but I did a perception study around the concept of Ubuntu for a foreign embassy towards the end of last year, And we really unpacked this concept of Ubuntu, which was a high priority for South African citizens, both black, white, Indian, color didn't really matter. It was something that they placed as a priority, except when talking about people from other countries. So just, that kind of after reading this report, I had that flashback of kind of presenting the same kind of narrative, is that we like to focus on our own. Some of the challenges that are prohibiting businesses from expanding, surprise, surprise, a lack of information and market opportunities, but also financing and investment opportunities financing and investment needed for expansion is an issue. And then thirdly, it's really just identifying local partners. Now, every single country kind of had the same narrative with this, except for